we look right now is beautiful. I think that's how we should be looking.
Corners, he will force one, and infiltrated the swing back from his steps. It all worked perfectly for Winthrop.
Honestly, I think the competition this year has been pretty weak compared to other years.
On the spike with nerve. Great shots on the BCJ as he runs away. Perfect read, and now it's pancakes to just enter.
We're one of those teams that likes to do crazy all the time. We're gonna have some crazy plays this year.
We are really trying to dominate this season when it comes to the end of it. Our way, the poor way.
The defuse is halfway, and TSM know they have to fight through this. This fight can be touched. We did. Thanks for the timing.
I'm excited to transition to a new role. Mechanically, I feel like this team is probably one of the better teams in NA.
I can confidently say that we think we're the best team in Challengers, and we're trying to prove that in this Split 1 playoffs.
You know what? I'm good with it. I'm getting old, boy. Spray popping is down. They pick me up here with the overheal redux with the ace.
Teams are getting overconfident. I think people don't understand that at the end of the day, what's going to matter is when we get to playoffs and when we actually play the elimination game, and we're going to win it all, that's for sure.
Doesn't really need to do much work though. Now that that's toxic, Corona doing a good job holding it down on site. Zelness is reinvaded with that operator. He is looking good as ever. You don't need to do that, dude. You don't. You have 4 players on your team.
We think most of the teams are horrible, so we're just gonna dominate and just win everything.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Valorant Challengers North America for our playoffs. 2 fantastic series yesterday, and I'm so excited to finish off our other 2 quarterfinal matches today. Sierra, Roy, Ash on the desk. Anyone else have goosebumps over the hype video? Anyone else? Just me?
Yeah, chills. Wow. I love the confidence from everybody. I absolutely love the confidence from everybody, though. Everyone's like, we're the best team here. Yeah, we're the best team. We're the best team. You love to see that confidence. I love it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it's really nice to see everyone talking a little bit of smack too heading into playoffs. It ups the ante a little bit as well because you don't get that same experience of like seeing these players yell at each other across like LAN or something like that. So you got to get some of those rivalries from somewhere, and it's cool to see the players hyping themselves and their own teams up.
Some really big words from some of the players, but of course at the playoffs, only one can be left standing looking ahead at the bracket. Of course, it was 5 weeks of Swiss play to all lead up to this. And we've got to see a lot of up and downs from our teams and their journey to get here. Yesterday, it was M80 and Qbert Academy to be taking these wins, but Roy, like these matches, they went the distance. I thought we were never ending yesterday's broadcast. Like, just, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost upset city completely with M80 taking down Envy and Core almost stealing the series away from Qbert. We absolutely saw some madness yesterday. Ash, you kind of missed out on that. But today, I expect nothing different.
Yeah, I think it's crazy how long of a day you guys had yesterday. Even just like you very casually said M80 taking down Envy/Rankers, but the fact that that was the halts to the win streak that team had starting out the split, you know, top of NA without any defeats. It's pretty crazy to see how the tables have turned.
They're never going to recover. Their VLR page now has a loss page on it here for Raggers. That's some crazy stuff. But looking at today, we have Shopify Rebellion Black going up against Blue Otter. And to start off, TSM going up against Winthrop. So I think definitely when we're looking ahead at these matches, there is definitely okay, well, there's some favorites going on here. But definitely a case where looking at this playoffs, looking at the growth that these teams had, I really just don't know what to expect anymore. So talking about that first series, that TSM and Winthrop University, I think this is the biggest potential of like any sort of upset that we get to see here, considering that Winthrop was a team at one point, didn't even know if they would make it to this point, and now they're going up against this team, this TSM, Roy, that has looked so strong, especially near the tail end of things. Just, I'm a little worried for the Winthrop squad.
Yeah, I mean, you're correct to be concerned. Honestly, they've looked absolutely incredible this split. They're one of the only 4-1 teams in the league. And even though I had some qualms about their approach to rankers, I still believe it was a very close match that could have gone either way. So they could have been one of the undefeated teams had things gone slightly differently. But overall, I completely agree. I think this team is really finding their form. They're really finding their stride, and their identity seems to be shining through with every single match that they've played so far.
Yeah, this TSM, this was a team that, of course, with the org name coming in from last year Challengers, there was a couple of concerns, especially when we see the core. But Recoil and Vora Ash, the round out for this squad, it's been really, really nice to see. And this is a TSM that realistically could find themselves back in Ascension and maybe rewrite their history there.
No, for sure. I think there's a high chance that we're going to see them back in that spot, but it is also a long journey. And I think that you mentioning Recoil and Vora stepping in for this team new to this season has been really nice to see. Vora has been a great IGL for this team, alleviating GMD from some of that responsibility that he previously held, and honestly allowing him to unleash.
And it's been really nice to see this young IGL and just kind of the evolution to their journey here for this TSM squad. And yeah, it's something that definitely paid off for them during the regular season. And I'm hoping too for the team, Roy, that's the confidence that they can take throughout the playoffs. But if TSM keeps scaling, then sky's just the limit.
Yeah, I do want to talk about one thing that Ash was saying, though, about the shift of IGL roles. So there's two things for that I would like to talk about. One, there's always complaints, I feel like, on socials regarding people saying there's no new leadership in NA, there's no new leadership in NA. But I feel like this split, we are seeing so many first-timers. Like, so many teams have IGLs that have never been in that role before. They're taking on the mantle in some of the highest stress matches they've played so far. But to be even more specific about it, we're seeing this sort of effect on GMD, right? Because the IGL role has shifted from him towards Vora. And I feel like it's helped this team a lot because it's allowing GMD to be hitting his stride and reminding everyone in the scene what he's capable of.
Not having the quote-unquote IGL debuff and being able to really see him shine, I really like. And that quote from Recoil, that TSM going to be ending up on top no matter what split, what stage they're going to be playing Ash, has been really nice. And something at the beginning of the year I was a little apprehensive of. But when I look at the more veteran talent on the team, rounded out with these rookies that seem to be doing right well, it's been really nice. Even looking back at the history that they had, this was a strong run from TSM to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, it has been a really great run for them. I think that, Recoil, I love seeing a rookie player coming in and having those fiery words. And you look at the history here for TSM, and they've been going up against some pretty darn tough teams up in that Swiss stage. When you look towards, those wins against like YFP, M80, Trust and Plug as well. And then you also look at the fact that these two teams have faced off against each other all the way back in round one. Winthrop and TSM have had a little bit of a back and forth, not just this split, but historically in the previous split last year as well. And it's been a bit of that trade back and forth. It was a really strong match that they had up against Winthrop to start off this season. And it shows, I think, that TSM have also grown into themselves as a new roster that was rounded out from that initial core with how well that they played up against teams like M80 and YFP.
Starting off the entire stage by playing up against Winthrop, who they're now seeing here in the playoffs, I think that is going to be the funnest thing for me, to be able to see that evolution of both these teams in comparison to that first time that they played. But that's where I want to start talking about on the other end, because sure, we've seen these two teams face off before quite a few times during different stages of things. But for Winthrop, again, Roy, to make it to the playoffs, I think this was kind of the biggest spoiler, the biggest upset, and one that not everyone would have predicted. But their last match to get them here, if that's a style they continue playing with in the playoffs, then I'm ready for even more upsets to happen.
Yeah, completely. I mean, this is a team that literally no one predicted would even make it to playoffs. We were all sleeping on this roster. And yeah, despite them having a bit of a rocky start, they did seem to have some sort of consistency towards the end. And I think their last match where they brought in Ali and they took down YFP in such a dominant fashion was really a statement that maybe something has clicked internally for this roster, and maybe with Ali stepping in now, they find some sort of synergy among them that's allowing them all to shine. Because truth be said, this team has so many cracked players. Moobs is an insane initiator. Infiltrator is a great duelist. Now they're bringing in Ali. I actually don't know too much about Flair. He's kind of new. This is the first time I've seen him play, to be honest. But Ali, I've been a big fan of Ali for a long time. He's a super cracked player with an insane mechanics. He has a long history of competitive gaming, including Overwatch. So I mean, he's a super great addition to this roster, and I think his style fits right into what these guys bring.
And I just want to go take the conversation back to Flair a little bit. You're talking about how we haven't seen too much of him prior to this split, but I want to say that even based on the interview that we heard from him during the last week of Split 1, not from him specifically, but from the whole team, I think the depth in his agent pool has opened up a lot of opportunities for this Winthrop roster as well, allowing Ali to even go back onto those smokes. And the fact that Flair is consistently still putting out numbers and performing really well while being so flexible adds this dynamic capability to the team for Winthrop, where I feel like we do continuously see them evolve week per week.
And you guys are talking about all these changes that they've had with Ali coming in and how they're changing who is on what agents and all of this other stuff. And for that to be changes that has happened later on in the split for them, for a team that already in terms of anyone's power rankings was a little bit lower, I think is just even more impressive. They had some of these cards stacked against them. They still make it to playoffs, and Nasi showing off what we're capable of. And I think too, when you look at the underdog, Roy, it can only be up from here. And now that they've had a week to still iron out a couple of those changes, like they've already done so much in so little time. So what's next?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you guys are absolutely correct. There is some sort of like buff when you're the complete underdog and no one in the scene thinks you're going to win the matches, right? Like you have quite literally no pressure. You don't have the org debuff theory on your side. You have the collegiate buff, if anything. But these players are not inexperienced, guys. We kind of have to remember that, right? A lot of these players have competed even outside of collegiate. They've been around the scene for a while. They're sort of top players within their, their respective tiers and rankings. And I feel like this team is the type of team that could surprise us. They have surprised us. But that being said, they haven't really defeated anyone too crazy on their way here. They haven't really proven themselves to be a top team yet. This is their first real opportunity. Yes, they beat YFP, but YFP has been a pretty rocky team. But overall, when you look at their match history, every single challenge that they've had, they've sort of dropped, right? TSM getting 2-0'd, MBG getting 2-1, SRB getting 2-0'd as well. Really, the only last match that they played was really the convincing one that had us all scratching our heads.
Yeah, I love that you talk about that YFP matchup too, right? Because initially before that match even started, we're talking about how, oh, this is the big litmus test for Winthrop. I do think that they played well, but it was against a YFP, like you were saying, didn't look quite like themselves on the day of that match. And I think now this revenge match is where we've really got to lay our eyes on if they can manage to, take a reverse sweep up against TSM, considering their previous results where TSM was really dominant up against them right at the beginning of this split. And that's where people will start to believe, I think, in Winthrop a little bit more. If they can make this a close one and even potentially take the series up against TSM, this is going to be their biggest test yet.
It definitely is a Winthrop that is a little rocky at the start. But I think, too, when we look at Tier 2, we look at Challengers, for some of the teams, it is going to be a little bit of rougher beginnings as everything kind of clicks into place. And all of those losses, it was before we got to see a little bit more of the switch up. And after that is when we got to see a Winthrop University that was a little bit more and more different and a little stronger as the weeks went on. Yeah. So let's talk about that change, bringing Ali into the conversation, because Ali was that change, the coach becoming the player. And this was a change that was not just a player change, Ash, but when you're looking at the team, who's playing what in these compositions, this was definitely a big turning point for Winthrop University.
That was a huge turning point for them. So to give you guys a little bit of an idea of why we're showing this agent pool for Ali is because when he was initially slotting in, I think that was back in week 4 of the Swiss stage, he was just thrown on what Jerk was playing for the team previously, allowing Flair to maintain that controller role. So he's picking up that Teho, the KO. Yes, they did win those matches, but it didn't look nearly as comfortable. And now we've seen the swap for Ali to go back to his initial role that he was actually known for back when he was a mainstay competitor and not so much in the coaching slot there for Winthrop was with his controller play, where he's so good at this role. And it's even opened up these doors, I feel like, for Winthrop, where we've seen them shift on a couple of maps over towards this Clove pick as opposed to some of the Omen and the Astra that we were seeing Flair picking out when he was playing smokes for this team. And it allows Ali to play a little bit more risky, where I think he really shines. He does love to go for those engagements, for those fights, and it looks really good on him.
Yeah, he's also super flashy as a player as well. But I do want to talk about something a little bit more lighthearted though, and it's the fact that there's like this ongoing social media joke between him and I about the fact that he's played almost a different role in every tournament he's ever played. And I was like, oh, look, it's Ali playing Duelist again. Oh, Ali, did you change your mind? Are you a controller now? And it's like every single tournament this guy is playing a completely different role. But that being said, I do love when teams have players like this. They have players like Flair that have so much flexibility. It allows you to play any interpretation of the meta. And I think that is a buff in itself to have so much diversity without a seeming loss in performance.
Yeah, the loss in the performance is the biggest thing for me, because for someone who has this role identity crisis based off your guys' conversations, full jokes on that, but for someone who is switching it up, to not really see that lack of performance come on through, and even when we're looking at that YFP series, really be able to step up when this was do or die for the team, has been really nice. So I'm excited to see that go a little bit further on for today. But the final players that we want to talk about, the head-to-head, well, this is where we have to look at where a lot of the strength, and we're looking for the beginnings of these teams. Sim going up against Infiltrator here, Ash.
Yeah, I think that this is a huge head-to-head, because when we were having that YFP versus Winthrop conversation just the other week, it was a lot of light being shined on Infiltrator and how he was a really big part of the win conditions for his squad, and it had to do with his performance. And you go up against a player like Sim on the other side of things. He is a great opener for TSM. Him on the other end of things is a major win con as well for that squad, where he has just this insane ability to, I mean, TSM, they know to set him up, right? That they're always going to be throwing out that utility, whether it's the recons, the flashes, etc., to help Sim make that space for those first engagements. And he is a huge leader, I think, within this league when it comes down to those first bloods and playing that aggression and making that space for him. And this head-to-head could not be more important.
Especially too, when I look at Infiltrator, it kind of goes back to what Roy was talking about, whereas the players on this team aren't new for Winthrop University, and there are definitely people that have stepped up within the teams, within the spaces they've been playing with. So even if Infiltrator hasn't been on these big name teams, it is somebody that we've definitely been praising within the space, Roy. So to see that head-to-head and looking at a Winthrop that definitely is the underdog, even regardless of that, like, Infiltrator definitely can hold his weight.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really good test for Infiltrator because he's going up against one of the most experienced openers in the league, right? We talk a lot about Penny. Penny has a great like ratios of openers, but no one really matches. I think there's only like one other player in the league that matches the amount, just like the sheer number of openers that this person has an experience with. Yeah, he might not have the craziest ratio, but the consistency and how many first engagements he's getting speaks to the structure. And I think Infiltrator will have to match that in some way or another to be able to defeat TSM.
Before we move on, I want to like really quickly back that up with some numbers to give you guys an idea of what Roy is talking about. Because when you look at Sim, he's got like 66 openers, over 52 first deaths. And then you've got Infiltrator with 60, over 53. But there's a 100-round differential between how many rounds Infiltrator has played over Sim. So with 100 rounds less, Sim is actually exceeding the amount of openers that Infiltrator has, and that's just insane to think about.
I love all of this. I love when we get to nerd out about the numbers too, but we got a series we got to nerd out about, guys, as well, as we have our map picks and bans, and we can start narrowing in on how we think this series is going to be shaping up. Going on forward, Winthrop University is the one that gets picked first, and Ash, they're taking us to Pearl.
Okay. I think this is pretty interesting. Pearl is one of the maps that they've played the most, aside from Fracture, when you're looking towards the Winthrop side. And it's also been a pretty comfortable map for TSM as well. They have very different approaches to it, though. I think what I'm going to be curious of is if Winthrop are going to be sticking with that jet that they've had Infiltrator on, or if they will end up shifting back to the Neon that they actually initially faced up against TSM with. So there's a little bit more flexibility there compared to a TSM where they really haven't made any compositional changes across any of their maps aside from Bind.
Yeah, Winthrop University, at least for the jet, it's been a little bit more of the mainstay in a composition that's changed 4 times just throughout the 4 times they have played it here in Challengers. But again, that goes back to them having to restructure a couple things with changing things around. But then looking at the rest of the map pool, I'm curious with how this is going to be shaking up. But going to the predictions, I don't think that anyone's predictions are going to be changing based off of that map pool, including my own. Easy.
Sierra, I respect your enthusiasm about the underdog, honestly.
So first off, we don't mess with the caster curses over here, right? Somebody has to do it. But
Yes,
as well,
classic.
like it was all of you guys that clowned on me for predicting them up against YFP. And even if it was a YFP that didn't look like their usual selves, it was also a Winthrop University that didn't look like their usual selves. And the fact that it was elevated, it was stepped up. They looked clean, they looked coordinated. I really liked what I saw there. And I think that maybe this is a Winthrop University that can catch other teams off guard. And maybe TSM is underestimating them, Roy.
Ash, I'm on to you, Sierra, by the way. Ash, this is what Sierra does, okay? She chooses Winthrop University, and if they win, she's an absolute mega mind genius. But if they lose, and she's, well, I was just trying to preserve the caster's curse. Like, it's a win-win for her, but we all have something at stake here. It's crazy. She's actually just a mastermind.
I'm just smarter than you guys. I know, I see the win-win, and I take it. So, like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. I'm going to expose her a little bit here. Because you guys don't know. When we're in the green room, if she's voting for the underdog, she's the only one on the predictions voting for that team. They're down by 1 round and she's losing her mind already. Ye of little faith. Ye of little faith.
Okay, at least give me the credit that when they're up 1, I am talking the most amount of smack. Call me BCJ over here, the amount of trash talking I'm going for.
Yeah, this is true.
More than the players. It's actually impressive.
Yeah. Passionate, okay. It makes it fun. It makes it fun to just put all of my predictions that I've been so meticulously counting on throughout the rest of the split onto this. But I think it should be fun. If this is a Winthrop University that we saw going up against YFP, going up against this TSM, I definitely think that there is the opportunity for them to hold their own, and holding on to that little bit of hope. I mean, we're going for it. It'll be fun. It'll be a fun series, Roy.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to talk about a little bit about Nasi, the IGL for Winthrop University. I feel like he doesn't really get any sort of, no one ever talks about him, I feel like, but I've heard really great things about him as a player, as a teammate, as sort of this presence on the team. I feel like having like good leaders, like there have been a lot of players in the past that have been good strategists, but being like an IGL, being a leader is so much more than that. And being able to like maintain a vibe within the team, a culture within the team, being able to like handle workload. There's so many of these aspects that like allow these teams to flourish. And I feel like Nasi, I've only ever heard great things about him as a teammate and as an IGL. And I'm kind of excited to see it.
Good vibes, definitely to help keep the team together through maybe some of the tougher times, but hopefully no tough times ahead for them as it's time to get into the series. Go over to our agent select. Again, for TSM, we've kind of gotten to see a little bit more of the same, but I'm curious, Ash, for Winthrop, what changes here?
Yeah, I'm not oh, wait, okay. Some changes coming in here, I guess, on the side of Winthrop. When you look towards this composition, it's going to be the story of one match Moobs is on Vice. The next match he's going to be on the Chamber. It's been like a very back and forth with every single time Winthrop have played on Pearl on which one they're going to lean towards here. So I'm curious to see what the decision behind this, or what the reasoning behind this decision was, because I think Moobs looks great on both of these options. You know, there was the opportunity for him to play a little bit more forward previously and whatnot, but maybe it's just to deal with the expectation of that Yoru coming out from Sim instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is the same concept they've ran last time, but the one thing I do want to point out is the fact that they're running the Sentinels meta, right? Where it's just it's the Fade, it's the Tejo. But the difference is, the key difference here is the Duelist. Yoru pairing much better into the Vice. Jet still having to like slightly struggle against it and still bypass a lot of that utility. I feel like that interaction between Sim and between Infiltrator will be really interesting for us to watch.
Yeah, I like but I find it intriguing for Winthrop that it's going back to a comp that they had going up against Shopify Rebellion Black. They had switched it since, but then are now rolling it out. So thinking that there's definitely a lot of good utility here. I'm excited to see how it goes up against a TSM that running with what they know is it's time to head into Pearl. First map of the series here, and over to our casters, Shift and Tendrick. Have fun.
Yeah, definitely a David and Goliath story in certain regards, I think, just based on the names on paper. But if there's anything we've learned from yesterday here, Tenric, is the fact that anyone can beat anyone. And I think in particular, we've seen that come true, especially with the squads that come in as the favorites that haven't played an official competitive match in some time.
Couldn't be truer. Those peaks are never out of reach, especially for these teams that have had so much practice leading up to this event. TSM, there's been a decent amount of time in between matches that we've seen them. Of course, you know, we come into this still with the highest of expectations, but Winthrop, so many shifts, and every single one has led to more and more progress through this tournament. Like the desk said, this is a big litmus test for them.
Yeah, very much so the case. TSM already starting to work, trying to play a little bit aggressive. That's just down through B main, 1-for-1 going to be the opening trade. Recoil looking to do the same thing here as he's going to try to get some sort of a response over towards mid, but the Razor Vine is procced, and that's enough for Winthrop to respect it and back away and just kind of continue to play for information.
Recoil's felt very comfortable going at it slow, but still short, especially on these pistols, and stay in front of it for Infiltrator's reach. There's the first.
Yeah, just trying to find timing there. Is Winthrop University not going to happen? The Frenzy just spamming down the doorway, and yeah, no way you try to drop the spike this direction. Meanwhile, Moves on the other side of the map, trying to just feel things out through A main, has also met resistance. And now if you're Winthrop, you're sitting here like, I don't even know where we can go. So they're going to try to force something over through Art, and you're going to get Recoil on the cross, but Flare, nice opening headshot, and now it's just down to getting a read. Has Guimond played back in the site, or is he still playing a bit split through main?
Flare does has these salvos ready to be able to open up the site as well. So
30 seconds
Guimond
left.
has to get proactive with it. He will, and Flare will punish.
It's absolutely massive. Clears out the one defender that they were curious about. Now into the post plant, 2v2. Bora does have a considerable amount of utility still to spend to try to get entry back into the site. 7 as well could do the same thing with his salvos. He also has a special delivery to clear off a close corner. But look at the re-rotate coming through. You're going to get Bora trying to play on this stack up. Flare's jumping right into the mix of this Nebula. Not going to work out. And Ali also throwing in some shots. That will alert 7 that the pinch is on the way. Quick cleanup from TSM with the retake to take the pistol.
Tough timing, not enough connection, not enough damage, and Bora and 7 able to survive on that. But TSM holding down every single 1v1 up until that point. Winthrop University continuing to have to pump the brakes on every single one of their pushes, and it just meant zero momentum entering the site itself. TSM, again, it took a lot of fights, so Winthrop still, you know, looking to be a threat, but on every level of macro there, TSM the wiser.
Yeah, absolutely the case. And again, it's just setting the tone early here if you're TSM, just not allowing any contact to come through for free. So everything through mid goes well. B was just a 1-for-1, and then again, that play through A main also kind of just makes this very difficult for Winthrop. Shoutouts where the shoutouts are deserved, though. Flare makes that really doable, but not quite able to convert on that follow-up. And ooh, okay, salvos on both sides. As Sim will find first blood, a little aggressive peek out over through mid, and now Winthrop are going to get red here with the spray down with the Stingers looking pretty clean. One more shot for 7 out of the Sheriff will finish off the round.
I appreciate Winthrop getting ahead of things and trying to find that battleground themselves, but TSM with the gun diff, they're able to just do the exact same thing and find a whole lot more purchase. That's just unfortunately how the game works most of the time. So able to keep most of their guns, most of their eco, most of their confidence walking into this. That being said, ult cycle is still pretty kept up by Winthrop as well. As long as they can carry this bonus, keep a good amount of guns, they should look very stable moving into this. It's not like their pushing has looked bad to any degree. It's just their poking hasn't looked as stable.
Just for now, though, we got a full gun round coming through. It's going to be a pretty true bonus, though, for TSM. Outlaw will not find immediate value, though, because of the plant and eliminations from the first round. Winthrop can get into full armors here. So, ooh, come on, going to get a little bit antsy, trying to play for the orb right in front of A. Walk down coming through over at mid. Decent trade there from 7. That's actually going to allow Sim to take more ground forward. And the quick rotation from 7 also realizing that if someone's lurking mid, they're probably trying to put a play over towards A. Vora able to see 1 at B long, but again, with the Yoru playing so deep, that play is really insignificant.
BMD inside and can find 1, and 7 is here to be able to return fire if need be, but Winthrop going to stop making noise immediately after that opening kill to see if anybody else chomps at the bit. But Sim is too inserted right now for any member of TSM to fully move.
And Moves also tagged out by the Outlaw. Has to be very cautious no matter what he wants to do on this lurk. And ooh, yeah, timing not going to go their way. 7 going to rotate back as the hit towards A is underway. Quick elimination from Infiltrator and information on towards Sim. Follow-up from Vora, shut down as Flare continues to put pressure through Flowers. So now you've got a chance to get this post plant going, and Infiltrator's actually kind of just chasing the shadow of Sim. He's also going to throw some pings down to stop the rotation with that salvo in play. And all of a sudden, Sim is completely trapped up their secret, but Infiltrator goes into Flowers instead. Flair's still going to watch for this crossing angle right on top of the spike. And this would be a very heroic 1v2 as Sim will get read by Infiltrator, and that's a gun round win for Winthrop.
Got to start taking those chances as time goes on. In the cat and mouse game, still in the end, won out by Winthrop University, but TSM clearly ready to meet that matchup. And so now with that gun diff eliminated, looking a lot better heading into the retake game, which they have a Cosmic Divide already set up for. GMD has been able to find a lot of frontline damage early on in these rounds, letting them be able to make a big impact potentially in this upcoming round.
Well, the bonus doesn't come through, but a little bit of damage does get tacked on, but Winthrop off for the plant, still going to feel pretty comfortable. And we're going to start seeing some of our first ultimates coming online, especially with Bond kind of farming the early ults orbs over towards A main. Not going to be the case this time. Again, this exchange of salvos continues to be a pest. Nebula in the way for now, so the Prowler will come through just to make sure that there is a way for Winthrop to gain A main control. But meanwhile, again, the quick presence from Sim, he's already through B main, and the defense can stack up and rotate.
Yeah. Able to kind of center this. Wow. Yeah, I don't know how Moves is able to sidestep that, and now he has permanent closure on this mid lane. There's a wall activated by Sim, so it is crunch time for Winthrop here as they'll start their big rotation down spawn, but TSM starting to encroach on this. Moves is in trouble.
I think the thing about this here is, is that the gate crash rotation back, that will cause some question marks for Winthrop, and more importantly, just takes key time off the clock here as they're still looking to see if they can find Sim. But we'll see what the spike wants to do. Moobs is still feeling things out over at mid. Honestly speaking, this is not a route of entry. I mean, there's still a sheer in the way, and there's also a Razor Vine behind this play over towards main. That'll be called out as the Prowler gets denied, and Winthrop are going to have to just crunch on something quickly here.
A big gamble that they're taking on top of this sheer push, but it's one that they're going to have to rest with. Winthrop University do have a little bit to dump into this, but they're going to have to rely heavily on not getting intercepted and being able to take a little bit of space on the way back out. That being said, with the smokes present, they're able to do that just fine. Get a lot of action on site. Salvos. Ooh, Allie, how do you get in that?
There is a Cosmic Divide available, but no. Instead, GMD just tries to find the timing off of the plant. Not going to work out. Ali also following up, getting one inside the pit is decent. Now just down to 7 in recoil. Make it just down to 7. Armageddon going to get called through. Don't know if it's necessary, but still spent. As now 7 is going to realize that there's really not an opportunity to clear off this 1v3, so he's just going to back away and save. Good round from Winthrop.
In a rough case of timing that Winthrop are able to hit right on top of the smoke exit. And that's been so much of what's made Winthrop electric in these past couple matches, is being able to find that exact ping, that exact moment where everything needs to exec. The window of time has gotten shorter and shorter in a meta like this one, and it seems like Winthrop, they've found ways to slip through the cracks like no other team. Infiltrator, I mean, he gets enabled so heavily by this team, and whether or not it makes them look like a bit of a smaller fish in the bigger pond in the long run or not, this is one of the most dangerous duelists in the playoffs still.
Very much so the case. So Winthrop is chilling, hanging out, enjoying the vibe for the time being at least. And now we start to look forward to see what adjustments TSM are going to make, because at the moment they're finding good control of the map early through the extension, through V, I think in particular, but it hasn't really made Winthrop sweat too much. So that's going to be the question as we eventually get back to a gun round. But for now, it's just going to be Sim on a hero rifle. Cosmic Divide at the ready. Sim, if he finds an elimination, very well may put himself in a position for a dimensional drift, but with him being eliminated, Winthrop have already claimed the numbers advantage.
And they'll try to twist that knife in for anybody on TSM who wants to nibble away at whatever's left. With Infiltrator tossing those knives and then Moobs continuing to put this pressure on A lane. Winthrop, though, they want to flex this mid before it gets too conditioned, so they're going to put even more pressure towards it and go for an arc crunch again. They want to see if the shear is conditioned as well.
Prowler going to read a little bit of information on the defense stacked up over through B-Link. That's going to be enough for them to start making their move down over and in through Art. That will work out as Ollie will find the only defender on the site. Deep utility could also allow Winthrop to take a ton of space behind this A site. And for TSM, they have collected its rifle, but yeah, 3v5, you don't know about this one. You don't feel good about it.
A real shame that 7 let fly that Armageddon last round in retrospect now, too. It would be so fantastic to flush out at least dugout here or wherever Infiltrators decide to hide for this retake, which is now on site as TSM start their swings. Oh, no more knives, though.
find, yep, this rotation over through Secret seems to be. Vora able to find one, but nothing more behind that. So Winthrop putting this together quite nicely all of a sudden. And again, this is the round where we're going to figure out what exactly is TSM going to try to adjust, because these hits towards A have been pretty clean for Winthrop.
Yeah, agreed. It really seems like Winthrop, whenever that B pressure, like you said, is able to be applied, or even that mid presence on door, Winthrop, they're pretty quickly able to see that saw and just head on over to the most vulnerable spot. They're just quicker to the punch, and TSM, their comp is so intercept geared. Recoil needs to be present on fight. It'd be preferable that Vora is there during plant, and just so many times the right people are not present at the scene of the crime, and Winthrop's taking huge advantage of that, and then moving house whenever somebody is.
Yeah. Well, already seeing a operator with the purchase here for TSM. That's going to be something that's going to be obviously different from what we've had to this point. But realistically speaking, again, I feel like there's something to be told about Winthrop not really being cautious. I mean, they are playing with their own playbook, staying aggressive, and honestly speaking, there's been a number of really good individual moments, I think in particular for Infiltrator and Moobs to this point, that they have really locked down and saved a couple of 1v1s that determined the outcome of the round, even after first blood comes through for one team or the other. Doesn't really make too much of a difference, it feels like. So for TSM, what is going to be the setup call here? It's going to be Sim with the operator moving over towards B. Rifles for everybody else. A couple of light armors in play. I think the interesting point here is that you've got an operator, but you also have a dimensional drift. So will there be some sort of a duality play here where Sim and Vora hang out together? If they have to play retake at A, they can swap weapons.
And what kind of responsibility does that place on this A front line? That might now get pressured again by Winthrop. How much work do they need to do before Sim could confidently retake if this is the site of interest for Winthrop, which, again, if you have a Yoru heading down B long with an op, probably is going to be.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, they already get A main control. I mean, this is a very passive setup through A at the moment, as there's 2 stars and a Razor in the way. Recoil gonna be playing with his own Rose as well, just in case he needs the secondary flash. So in terms of what you want from a defensive setup, this is pretty perfect. Here comes the execute utility. Yeah, Razor Wire going to be a little bit of an issue, but the reveal is good, and Infiltrator makes good on that for the first blood. Armageddon also going to be Spectacle. Mon just steps into the site. Salvo pushing him around his touch. Has to dodge a little bit of everything at the moment, and actually does stay alive through the Armageddon. Winthrop now all of a sudden have to deal with the reinforcements quickly on the way. Good flash over the top as Gamon and Sim connect for a couple more eliminations. Moob's trying to save things, though, as him and Ash are working together, and they actually take one on the exit as the Steel Garden is called in 2v2 we go.
Fantastic reaction timing from every single member of both sides, but Winthrop still trying to play with this plant as the Steel Garden will expire, but 7 caught out in dugout. The game of patience is won out, but now Sim has to open himself up instead of a teammate.
Nightfall gets thrown over towards Flower. Does not connect onto Sim, but that is information as the operator shot goes a bit awry, and the double swing is there. Wow. I mean, for Winthrop, the execute is heavy-handed. It's just literally the kitchen sink being thrown at the front doors. They catch the vice quickly, but more importantly, they are able to still scale deeper into sight, which could have been an issue considering that there was a pretty decent battle back from Gamond.
Hats off to Flair for that opener. The Tejo dump was pretty much perfect, and yeah, that stealth drone timing on the recoil must be praised as well. Of course, being that one that role swapped with Ali very recently, it's been interesting to see how he's kind of shedded that new skin and been able to make an impact. And along with that Armageddon and salvos, he made a hellscape for that first bit. Moves terrific timing with the Steel Garden. Everybody from Winthrop firing on all cylinders, and Infiltrator at the front line of it all, as always.
Now back on to just pistol upgrades and a stinger here for TSM. Quick action for the first time for Winthrop, feeling things out over towards B. Sheer wall in the way, if that matters much at all. Vora just trying to throw a couple of shots to see if he can find anything through the smoke. Not the case. Sim has also rotated over with this, and Winthrop are just going to kind of peel back and see if they can maybe find some success over through the middle map. Recoil's information has been given with those stray shots, and yeah, it looks like Winthrop want to go quickly to get into mid-map.
Still not opting to go for a lurk here. Knows how close Moobs is, and can't even find a shot with him, unfortunately. Make that fine in place. Moobs is going to push on top of it with the Arc Rose and find immediately two. Now comes the full stack down Plaza, and you can push into that stack as confidently as you want.
Oh, but Golan does say maybe an opportunity here inside the smoke with the stinger, but not going to happen. Sim can only find one, and 7 is stuck with a classic, and he's already been seen on the backside of B, so he's got nowhere to go here. seeing if he can maybe find another elimination before this round comes to what will likely be an anticlimactic finish. Yep, and there it is. Okay, Winthrop really stringing them together nicely here. Again, impressed with what I'm seeing. Even in, again, what is a round that is essentially just a thrifty, still putting the pressure on and keeping this TSM team, I would say, rather uncomfortable.
Absolutely, on their toes. And for a TSM that has looked especially strong on their Pearl defense, it's about time that they need to pick up on it. They chose this side for a reason, coming into a map that on paper they should be really, really comfortable with. All these picks facilitate the players to a T, and the comp facilitates the map to a T too. But Winthrop, this confidence on the attack, it gets you so far down both lanes, and they've only really been cashing in heavily on A side so far. That B-long push looked well practiced and recyclable, and there's still only 5 rounds left in the half.
Well, puts the pressure on here for TSM immediately. Still holding on to a constant divide and the dimensional divide, but uh-oh. Is there going to be a crunch down here? Yeah, there's pressure all over the map, and Infiltrator is going to find 2 as TSM tried to stage aggressively in front of A. Not the case. Sim with the quick gate crash. An angle, but no! Nasi, oh my goodness, what a shot that is. Sim looked like he had it every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Not the case, and the follow-up through mid also comes through as TSM just cannot find an elim anywhere on the map. It's a flawless round 8 for Winthrop.
Winthrop dividing and conquering as these fights go on, able to isolate in these chokes so fluidly and cleanly upon these pushes. And of course, some of that does come from being able to clear 2 nice and early down A. But across the rest of that, Infiltrator knew exactly how far he could outstretch, considering that he is playing Jet instead of Yoru, something that the desk rightfully touched on going into this game. He looks like he knows exactly how far to extend without becoming too much of a burden, compared to Sim, who is also, I think, extending the right way on this Yoru. But beyond that, every member of Winthrop able to enable each other at a given notice, but enabling themselves so much more than I've seen lately.
Where are you?
Oh, may get a little bit of contact here. Haunt gets thrown out. Sim still wants to hold this corner. His gate crash is deep behind A. Nice little flash out play, and Sim avoids it, finds the quick headshot on the moves, and for the first time in a long time, TSM will have numbers advantage.
Recoil attempting to hold on to it with the help of this Vine setup that he's been leaning on so heavily for the Plaza hold, able to get a second. And that's the majority of your push game down. The window now opens, but the power behind the push itself kind of slows. I don't know how Ali finds both of those. Does take a trade, but 2v3 walk into this. Winthrop suddenly confidence edging off of them again, at least for a moment, until TSM can go for the reset. Sim for 1, Voro for 1. TSM
That's 3. Just, that reeks of just overconfidence from Winthrop. Just to re-peek in through mid with nothing, and they still come away with a decent trade. Yeah, they don't take the round, but that's one of those moments that I think it mentally taxes on TSM a little bit, like, wow, these guys are really just going right at us. So, okay, got to be in, I would say, particularly kind of in question as far as, is there ever such thing as a free angle right now? Because Recoil, I think he's sitting here like, oh, we got this, and then, oh, never mind. All of a sudden, Ollie comes out for 2. It's just the late flash from Sim to put things to rest as we go quickly into the next round. Wow, Infiltrator is trying to get an aggressive angle, but caught by the salvo. That is as free as it gets.
A lot of brevity for a push that wasn't really fully figured out just yet. A little bit overheated. So TSM now able to stay as stalwart as they want to. No stacking, back to this individual towering that they were going for in the first couple rounds, just because they knew they could shoulder all of that 1v1ing themselves against a team like Winthrop University. Come on, who does Recoil think he is? Still though, we got an A push going, and we got only 2 people on site for it.
Oh, Haunt deters GMD from being able to hold on to his angle. Ali punishes. Nightfall called out for the defense. It really only connects on 1 player though. 7 still holding close in towards dugout. And there's a flank on the way from Sim. Steel Garden could put an extra pause to this. And that's exactly what will be called out. And yeah, perfect timing here on the crunch from behind. And there's just nowhere for Ali to go but out in this 1v4.
That's the kind of stoppage that you were looking for TSM. It's the funny thing, instead of players, you're doing it with that pure utility in the start of things. And it's only when Winthrop University decide to, you know, break away before that starter pistol even really goes off. 7, unfortunately, hasn't been allowed to be too proactive with this util. Has, you know, tried to play as preventatively as possible, but the way that Winthrop has been able to ball up, it's really been just for the exec itself and not for this sort of pre-plant phase that TSM sees a lot of merit in trying to slow down, so they're able to, you know, get Sim going with a wraparound, get Vora getting some util dumping going down, you know, all that good stuff that TSM love to use to make this defensive comp work.
Get out of my way.
Well, quick knife action here for Infiltrator. Salvo again going to be used to get some control over towards B. Stealth drone also seen, but again, Sim just continues to get all this free space through B long. And with Ollie dropping, now all of a sudden you lose the Cosmic Divide, which I imagined was probably going to be some sort of a dictation towards how Winthrop wanted to play this round. But now instead, they have to try to get aggressive. And whoa, Sim not able to get out back through the vent, does get punished, and we've got a 4v4.
Somehow putting Sim in a chokehold and then finding a way back out onto your default attack without anybody else from TSM going for the disrupt. That's how much faith they have in their duelists, man. Now the plaza push coming through and recoil, unable to find a body, but that just means WU, they have to change course again. And with how far Moobs has made it down A site, they may just have found a free channel.
Yeah. This is going to be one of those moments of how much ground does Moobs feel like he can take, and he's going to get deep in towards Secret. And honestly, this is as far as he needs to go. The line in the sand could be right here. Has both razors to get out if he wants to try to control this space.
30 seconds left.
The question will be, yeah, can Winthrop actually safely get across this play through Flower? And now Moobs all of a sudden has given away his position. So TSM will be aware of this. They don't really have anything to use to clear the ground, though. They may have to use the Cosmic Divide. Armageddon going to be fallen. Infiltrator able to use that as a chance to catch GMD before he can rotate out. And I don't know, you may have lost an opportunity here to do much if you're TSM. They're just getting zoned away from being able to get a retake going at any form. Moob's still on the corner. Help now for Infiltrator, and TSM are getting bullied here on the defensive side of this map.
Far too much of a hard reset on each one of those pulls by TSM on the way back in when, I mean, sure, you only have 2 narrow ways to go in, but 0 dugout presence until it was far too late. And TSM, Winthrop didn't really fire much into it initially. It only came once you went for that reset and you knew that you could, again, pour that salt into that wound. And yeah, Winthrop are just terrific at being able to pile drive any weakness that they've seen. And yet, there they are taking down Sim and not, you know, trying to dig any deeper on that, instead sticking to their guns. So staying respectful, but continuing to be confident in these pushes. And one more round to get it done.
Orb can be triggered. That's for 7. Try to get his Armageddon. He does earn it. And honestly, a little bit of damage also tallied onto Winthrop, who are trying to challenge that play. So small advantage here for 7. I'm still surprised we have not seen the Cosmic Divide or Dimensional Drift yet. I mean, they've had this since round 5, essentially, and we still have not seen it as an opportunity to play for retake. It's just TSM are not allowed to even get those setups going.
Yeah, it's been really tough for TSM to find a good excuse or window where the right players are also alive to work off of those pieces.
No charges.
Winthrop has just been too good at chipping away until they find the advantage. They're going to try and do it again here with the Steel Garden on B site that will catch nobody.
Oh, goodness. Fora just overstates the welcome inside a tunnel, and yeah, Gumon's going to just put down the Cosmic Divide to try to create some space here, but recoil does get shut down inside of the Nebula, though. Oh, trades evenly coming through as the Dimensional Drift just has Sim kind of out of the picture right now. Shorty out, knows that moves to the corner, and the 2 taps will come through. So TSM finally able to spam out some of these ultimates, and it works out to get a 5th round before we swap the sides.
Good to see that TSM has enough to drop on top of the B side after Winthrop University get to it. And again, it's a game of timing that TSM are fully able to win. They're able to stall out this push for just long enough. It does take an Armageddon, and then a Cosmic Divide, and then a Dimensional Drift. But hopefully that's a little bit easier when you're able to cycle back on your attacking and keep to your lane, which TSM really loves to do with this composition. We'll already see them jumping at this B barrier and no doubt looking for an easy pistol fight to take up lane going into this second half.
Well, decent recovery after what was largely, again, a string of just absolute dominance from Winthrop. Yeah, you take away the pistol and the follow-up, which that pistol was winnable, by the way. And that very well may have been closer to 9 for Winthrop just because the trends and patterns were so dominant. Winthrop throwing a little bit of early utility, and, well, they will get a read that TSM have stacked up with at least a couple of members here towards B long. And honestly, I don't even know how much you can really stall this if you're Winthrop with the agents that are here. I mean, Nazi only has a Prowler left. Infiltrator on the corner also dealt with, and that should open the doors now for Winthrop to have to rotate.
Very close and personal with this fight when there wasn't Nazi available to swing on top of the cross immediately after. Now Vora is able to pick off him as well. A very piecemeal defense here on B side that TSM are going to be able to rip through like it's paper, but Flare able to intercept before the plant goes down, and Moves is still standing, not for long though. Now TSM activate the second crunch, Flare the only one standing, and from here it should be clean.
Should be a pretty quick follow-up here. I mean, there's just nowhere for Flare to go. Yeah, and the spike will be recovered and immediately planted. Largely full health pools as well for 2 of the 3 members for TSM. The only one who's weak is Vora, playing off the first piece of contact here through Halls. On out, deleted immediately. Blindly throwing out the salvo. Doesn't work for much, but does clear off the close corners, both at Halls and in through mid. First contact comes through, now the swing. Vora easy for the 3 eliminations as TSM win another pistol.
And they were feasting on that one. Feel super comfortable, and Winthrop, I mean, their composition with just a simple change of duelist is not nearly as geared towards just completely catching that execution on a site. Much more retake geared, with Infiltrator being able to kind of double back a little more easily onto a composition like this one. And of course, they look a lot stronger on A site than B, so TSM, they're gonna try and sink a lot of chips into this site before the going gets tough. No doubt. With this gun diff, they may try and switch that up, of course, but no, they'll start the B lane aggression early.
Seems to be pretty telegraphed as Sim played there all on the defensive side, and now he's showing presence on both rounds offensively. Shorty for Infiltrator in towards mid. Really the only thing that could pull a surprise card here for Winthrop's defense, and honestly speaking, Recoil may walk into this. It would only be a Sheriff upgrade though, so in terms of like value, even if they do find this elim, it may not matter for much. But second member now in the way. Infiltrator finds one. Tries to give him a schwacking. Not gonna happen, but ooh, come on, not quite able to get out, at least not for free. A little bit of punish coming through, and then he stands tall and finds 3 in the round. Leaving it now just to moves over through Connector. Not gonna happen as TSM put us tied at 7.
Bit of a quieter half in the kill feed, but when it comes to Pearl, GMD feels right at home. This Astra pick has been leveling up game by game, and he's just been so swift to collapse on top of his own smokes faster than a lot of other controllers you'll see in here. But of course, it's all to facilitate Sim, who has been doing a really solid job of pushing that front line so far without really going for too many like bamboozles or double touches or bluffs on this defense. I'm excited to see what he's got up his sleeve going into this attack against Winthrop University. They've clearly got a lot saved up.
Well, again, this opening salvo battle continues to persist. Follow up here, just a couple of spam shots. Not going to really deter this defense from standing tall forward. Moves playing off of all their own utility. See what they decide to do here. There is a gate crash available for Sim to get back over towards B main. Instead of just the decoy that gets thrown instead. And the arc also gets destroyed. So now all of a sudden it's really just Moves by himself with Razors. It's going to be enough for Infiltrator to rotate over. You also are seeing Nasi just kind of rotating and leaning towards B off this play through Connector, and the offense is not committed.
So necessary. Flare sticking around on the door just to make sure that if a rotation is through mid, they'll hear it. It will not be. Instead, it's just the 2-step over to the A lane to maybe try and bluff the full rotation. So Winthrop University lets Moves be yet again on this weaker B site. Ollie stopping that early. Now the double back. It's clear Winthrop University, they've been 3-timed, and Moves stands alone on a B site now, ready to get exec. But TSM hit by the vines, and 7 up, paying attention to Flick. Moves, ew.
Not like that, not like that. The freest kill he's seen all game. 7 able to turn on him though. A couple of little help pools could make this still very contestable, and it is. Help was right there immediately for Winthrop. So a moment of embarrassment, but still the round win comes through, and you can shake that off quickly.
Great amount of cleanup, and again, great speed from Winthrop University. That's been the priority. They've always been just ahead of TSM here, even when they think TSM, or even when TSM thinks they have that leg up or that advantage or that mental up. They've just been ahead of the situation every time and been able to slow it down faster than TSM has been able to try and take control. And luckily, yeah, everyone is here in the time it takes for that vine to expire and Moves to die. So no harm, no foul. We still take that bonus.
Find you.
More utility exchange over through A main. Again, it really hasn't resulted in too much. And honestly, I think it feels for Winthrop that they're fine exchanging this utility and still playing forward, which is exactly what happens for First Blood. Immediately countered, though, as Seven has opened up space now over through the B connector. Help on the way, or is it? Nasi was flashed up, trying to play for quick contact, not going to work. Recoil off their arc, just trying to find the angle, and the Guardian will land true. Free passage for TSM to jump on in.
And meanwhile, Sim is already headed back out all the way to mid to search for more, knowing that Winthrop is going to, at this point, just try and hold on to these guns. Skipping T's and I's. We don't need any punctuation for this round, but Sim is going to try and find 2 more exclamation points before it's done to fully put Winthrop in the drain.
Danny Cash is not super comfortable, but if you can take away these rifles for Winthrop, could lead to TSM really starting to explode their economy just a touch.
A lot of faith you're putting in a guy when you're like going to eco next round if you die. That's a little bit of a lot to lose, actually, going into the tail end of this regulation. Winthrop, they still have a lot they can work with, and they can, I mean, they'll be able to rebuy up a majority of this. So still relatively even walking into round 17 here.
Yeah, I think this is largely Sim being the one to go forward because he could pull something out like a shotgun or an SMG here and just play off the dimensional drift, which I imagine is going to be part of this play call coming up, as Winthrop will take a timeout to talk about it. And it's been interesting, I think, to try to see what like the storyline of this game has been, because Winthrop has allowed a lot of TSM to take space. You know, I think especially down through B, we saw it on both sides of the spike to this point. But more importantly, Winthrop has not really been scared away from playing in and through A main, even though there's been salvos that have been largely thrown every single round from TSM. The issue so far throughout this half that we've kind of seen is, how do we cleanly work our way through to dominate the map back in a different way? They've put a lot of focus in through mid, some of it working, some of it not. And now there's also the conversation of ultimates that you know for a fact TSM are going to use as soon as they possibly can.
Honestly, at this point, you might just want to play it a little safer if you're Winthrop University. The times where TSM is finding all of that power is in mid and like on the way to your rotation back. Once Winthrop has figured out that you're on the other site, they're able to intercept pretty consistently. So as long as they don't get chipped off along the way back and forth, and TSM won't be able to run them dry. But starting here on A main, it seems like they're going to try and get a battlefield going early to do exactly that.
Yeah, again, similar exchange going to be thrown from the utility, but the difference now is Winthrop have played aggressively through B. And in terms of trying to respond to a dimensional drift, if it were to come through at A, they're just backing off. So this is going to be one of those rounds where Winthrop are really hoping that they either catch contact in an unexpected angle here through mid or at B long, or then you just play for retake at A. You just allow this hit to come through if you assume that a dimensional drift will be used on the execute.
Sim just going to walk into this? No flash afforded? Nope.
I cannot believe that.
Yeah, that's a little confident.
I mean, you've got
back out. Infiltrator's right in front of the shear. Is he going to cross it? No way.
I mean, you've got 4 members there that could do anything. You could even just place a star and then recover it for a short fuse nebula just to try to get an angle. But instead, we're trying to peek quickly, and that's an immediate punish. And now Winthrop, with this push up through B main, they know for a fact that they could stack heavily over towards A. 2 stars in place, just in case they need to delay a little bit longer to get device in play. Nightfall will be called out immediately. Salvo behind it. Nova Pulse also to the backside of the site, but again, the razor wires are there, and Moops is still holding a corner. I mean, there's no entry. Now time's becoming a bit of an issue here. You gotta go if you're TSM, and I don't even know how you get into sight here. It's still being contested. They won't commit on for the plant. The spam on the counter starts to come through, but the spike planter does get taken care of. Nasi with 2. More information and damage on the more. Can they kill off the clock? Yes, they can. And wow, Winthrop just bleed out the clock for a dub.
Ability, dedication. A complete lack of options for TSM's push. Even on top of that Nightfall, all it took was just activating a couple vines. And just like that, TSM, they were completely boomed. They didn't move an inch. They didn't fight an inch. It was Moobs, the one with the shotgun, who decided to move just an inch and try to get that opening frag to what was going to be the remainder of the fight. But TSM, again, they're just allergic to completely getting inside, especially when Winthrop is already here to party. Playing off of advantage so well as well. Just continuing to show that confidence.
Unbelievable. So now the economy gets shaken for the side of TSM. Still on 2 rifles with 2 sheriff upgrades. And for the first time, TSM is actually going to get a pretty free walk up here at A, but Recoil, the one trying to pull the defense over, gets shut down immediately. And look how quickly Winthrop are already moving over to deal with this inevitable takeover towards A. Armageddon at the ready. Sim getting aggressive over through Art, finds one. That pulls Flare kind of into his Armageddon completely and actually does find the elimination on the 1. Again, but the problem is this Armageddon doesn't actually stop the plant from coming through immediately. The spike will go down, but the problem is it's a 1v3. Vora, the last one standing. Prowler able to find him. Should just be a double swing coming through, waiting for the salvo first and foremost. And hold on! Oh, Vora just a bit too high and left. Nearly able to take down the 1v3. The timing of that challenge was not perfect, but again, doesn't make a difference when you win the round.
Finally, a TSM hero moment. We've been waiting for those here on Pearl. It's been so much of what made their attack so deadly previously against YFP. And Vora does get you so close there, but it's another round of denial from Winthrop University that they're able to cycle through. Of course, with the gun diff protruding, it's a little bit easier to do so. But even still, the fact that they were able to just sort of cap off that lurk and then immediately turn heel, understand where the stack's headed, great communication and great adjustment from Winthrop University on such a massive scale to be able to continue catching all these attacks. They've got to do it again.
Yeah.
Time to jump.
Well, Winthrop's going to get aggressive with 3 members through A main. Quick gate crash play here with the dimensional drift for Sim. Not going to see any defenders on the B side for now. Cosmic Divide will ensure that this will be a quick walk up through B. Then an extra flash comes through. Sim wants to try to play off this. Shorty out, just blindly fires it. Does find Nasi. Armageddon also thrown over towards B Link, and TSM will win this exchange. Held back for now off the Razor Vine, but still numbers advantage 4v3.
As that Cosmic Divide fades away, this is the round that TSM was looking for to find that stability. It took all too long, but now they've got to collapse on top of it as Winthrop University have so much to dump into this. Salvos, stun nade, stars galore, so much they have to prep for.
Yeah. Well, the drone will get triggered. Infiltrator a little bit off with the knives, allows Recoil to find 2 before dropping. Long range shots from Flare, though, are decent. To the 1v1. Just needs a headshot on Vora. But the health advantage is steep. Vora just needs to connect once. And will. Holds down the ADS. No problems there. TSM bringing us back to within 1.
But it was a round to find a lot more stability than that, certainly in the economic department. Only keeping 1 body alive is not the future that TSM was looking for, and they'll still head into this round kind of dragging their heels a bit. That being said, Winthrop, this was the round to fully topple their economy, so this is the moment in which you claw your way back regardless. We'll say, Flare did a tremendous job of clearing out that back hallway with just the salvos. And again, all comes down to timing on top of that interception on the outskirts of it. Winthrop continuing to find the crosses, continuing to just be on top of one another at all times. This is looking like a dangerous team by the week. And we've been saying that since like mid-2024.
Yep. Not a team to be taken lightly. Especially considering that a lot of the squad has stuck together over the course of the last year or so, and Moves is actually going to take down 2 with the Sheriffs. Are we joking? I mean, Winthrop should have had no business winning this round. They just take aggressive angles through mid, and they get a double cleanup over through B long, and all of a sudden, Vora is left by themselves, and the weapon collection is going to be pretty significant here for Winthrop.
I mean, what? Was that just a double read that led to 2 double frags, or was that just Winthrop having a real come to Jesus moment? I mean, that was miracle upon miracles, unless you had just the macro read of the century here. If you're Winthrop, I mean, I gotta see all those Sheriff shots again because we didn't see nearly enough of them.
I mean, it happened in the blink of an eye. I mean,
yeah,
you feel for the observer team there.
We couldn't have seen all of them if we tried. They were all at once.
But whoa, that is not what you would expect at all. Winthrop just take the double peek through mid, and you get that individual play through B main, and that's just the round right there. And all of a sudden, the economy is now starting to flip on its head. Here's Moves. Yep, okay.
What?
Why not? And then, again, the stack up here at mid works out beautifully. So they get all the contacts that you draft up. It's just the impressive 2 shots for moves to give them the major advantage through B, because you expect to out-trade things at mid with 4 players stacked there, but you don't expect moves to get 2. And now it's just the hero rifle for Sim. The Steel Garden is in play, so again, you could force Sheriff and Ghost fights here if you are TSM, and you might have to consider that if we're being honest.
Yeah, the mid presence is a good call again, I'll say, with what they're rocking with. Sim is actually staying pretty close and personal with this rifle. Good reason. Whoever wants to pick it up next is going to have to ball just as hard. But the opening frag into the Armageddon. Does TSM shift course? You kind of have to here, or you just get stalled out. And Winthrop, again, they're ready to fully take this in.
But you do get the drone through to commit forward. Also, the Nightfall is going to come through on both sides. A little bit difficult, though, with the Steel Garden in play. Recoil able to find one. These trades are decent. All but Flare. Infiltrator finding a couple of key eliminations. We'll put this now just down to Recoil, who was pushed so far out of sight. Opening shots not going to be there. And hold on to your horses. Winthrop have found themselves on map point.
Block after block after block coming from this Winthrop squad, able to just detain and keep away and make sure that TSM has to take a full rest stop before being able to exact on site. And it leads to TSM questioning themselves going into every execution. How much are we really walking into for this? How comfortable is Winthrop feeling without the retake in mind right now? And the answer is pretty damn confident.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I just don't know what you say about it besides the fact that they're just continuing to play the game on their terms. That might be the biggest part about this is TSM are just playing a little too loose. Whereas Winthrop are real tight and they're really locking down on these executes. I mean, legitimately, TSM has not really been comfortable getting in towards site. And I think the utility usage has been really key in terms of how things have gone in the first 30 seconds on some of these breakdowns over through B long or anything in particular towards A main. And Winthrop have come out the better for it. And on top of that, there's also just the level of like shots are just landing. I mean, Moobs has had a couple of really impressive individual moments, and especially in times where you just don't expect him to. So really good stuff for Winthrop to just take advantage of the hot hand on the Moobs.
And guess who's at the top of the kill feed even still? It's your duelist. It's Infiltrator. It's the guy you're enabling time and time and time and time and time and time again. Every single time he's at the front, every single time he's going to go for that opening kill. He really is just ready to throw his body at the problem. And now holding on to an operator, he's ready to hold down Nazi's lurk as well, too.
All this is panic time here for TSM. And I'm not going to lie, these little looks in through B connector have been less than convincing. This time the Prowler allows Sim to catch a little bit of an angle, but Nasi's fine with that. And you've got Moobs still playing on this cross decoy through, trying to find a connection, but no. Instead, gets a little bit caught off guard, timing not there as Vora secures first blood.
Bring them down.
So now, again, do they decide to shuffle on top of it? Infiltrator's here, and he just peeks it and wins. And now TSM question themselves for the umpteenth time. Do they head to Art? No! Ollie's going to intercept that with an Outlaw 2, and 7's dead now.
And the round might just be over at this point, unless Vora can provide. But problem is, the play through main does not find any success. So Ollie can back off this angle. Surely we wait for help here. Surely we wait for help. You've got Ollie completely isolated. This should be the freest kill this side of the Mississippi. And it is. So now that a 2v2, no ultimates available for either side, even after this plant. Haunt just to try to come through to get the defense some ground to work with. Infiltrator, though, is going to have to connect. And whoa, it's coming in with a Sheriff instead. Vora punishes. Now down to Nasi for the 1v2. Knows he still has Vora on site, but the timing of what he finds for recoil is the bigger question, and it's not going to make a difference. Vora for 4 keeps TSM alive.
And I mean, that is the man that you have to thank entirely for this round. Every single other facet of that round went awry for TSM. No one being able to find their pick. It was entirely down to this fade. And it should be said, Vora, funnily enough, you see him use his util the least, but you see him most confident and comfortable on this fade pick on this map when it comes to all of the comps that TSM has vibed with so far. So odd to see his gunplay just increase tenfold without his Prowlers really even doing that much. But he's looked absolutely insane on this agent and has saved TSM for at least one more round. We'll see how far TSM can carry it, but Infiltrator already feasting.
Just sees the top of the Mohawk and tracks it the entire way through. You want to say character models don't matter? I'll show you a ponytail and a Mohawk. So now you've got a 4v5 situation. Oh, and Ollie, bad timing right there. Takes down the scope, only hits once on the recoil. So now it's just the sheer that's in the way. 2 players able to push right past that. The Razor also right in play, but I believe it just got destroyed immediately. Stealth drone try to come through. Moves immediately, feeling the pressure, calls out the Steel Garden, putting a pause to this execute.
That's great timing from Moobs to get that ult off right before the drone is able to catch him. It was the only time that Winthrop is able to stall TSM, though, and there's still 45 seconds to go. They could double back if they want to, and it looks like Winthrop is going for the preliminary read on that with the spike moving.
Nasi on the corner, double swing is not efficient. Nasi takes down 2. Just inexcusable protocols there from TSM. You have to double check that and go together. Or throw something, especially knowing you got pushed off, and especially knowing that Winthrop's going to know that you got pushed off the site.
Yeah.
Just not covering their bases. Good flash, though, from Recoil. Makes up for it. 2v2. Infiltrator's going to have to hit. Knives are still at the ready, though, and it won't take much to find both these eliminations. And Infiltrator's actually going to push forward here. Salvo through. First knives are not necessarily as great as you'd like to see them. Blair trying to get in, able to find the first, though. Just down to Recoil. 10 HP, has to pop off, finds the first. Chance to try to isolate. Blair knows that he's low, and it's the shorty to put map 1 to rest. Winthrop with a statement. Gonna take Pearl 13-10.
I think both teams are a little tired of this map because that was as messy as a final round can get, but Winthrop is going to be able to drag themselves over the line. The message leaving this map, though, is that TSM just needs to open themselves up a little bit more and start throwing util a little more often at these easy swings, because too often were we staring at door to connector, too often were we staring at art, and too often was Winthrop just getting the easiest pick and peek alive. It was so much connection off of so little work from TSM in the early rounds, and it led to such incredible interception in the late stages. Winthrop, on top of that, read after read after read of where TSM was going to head to every single second that TSM was making those calls. Just terrific IGL.
And I don't know, man. I'd be curious to see what the community has to say or what the Dusk has to say about this, because so far, our 3 top seeds in these opening maps have looked really sloppy, like really unrehearsed, which they've had 2-3 weeks to get prepped up, get ready to go. I think in particular, you've also had a chance to watch a lot of your opponent where they have not had any sort of recency. So it's just a bit odd to see our top seeds really kind of struggling in moments and things that you would not assume they would look sloppy on. But Winthrop punishes, come away with map number 1. We'll send things to a brief break and head back to the desk to give us our thoughts.
Shit, I think I'm gonna have to give that one to myself, man. I like little organic moments like that to get hyped up and to get loud. I think somebody who surprised me a little bit is probably Scuba as well. Scuba's a little quieter, but when something crazy happens, he's right there in your ear, screaming and yelling. So me and Scoob.
Yeah, I used to say myself, but I think it's got to be like probably pancakes or paint. One of those two would pop off the most. I think me, Brock, and Spaz are usually more low-key now, especially after winning a clutch. I mean, I'll look to my left, I'll see those guys like win a clutch, and they'll just be stone cold. So I'll probably say pancakes or paint on that one.
Probably Logan, to be honest. Logan's like he's like our hype man. In matches, he gets pretty hype after like a clutch, like a big round. So I definitely say Logan. Darkest gets pretty loud too. The other guys are just like, they're so like focused on the match. They don't really like scream or like do anything like crazy like that.
I don't know. I feel like everyone's kind of the equal, but if I had to pick one, probably Huen, my IGL. Yeah, he seems to be like, he just has tons of energy at all times. I don't know how. IGL for the reason, you know? So
probably between me and Steven. If you look at like the extreme outliers, like I think Steven just randomly, and it'll be like over nothing sometimes. Like we will like win like a 1v2 where he like shoots a guy that's 1 HP and he's like, I'm him, and like it is wonderful. Like I love it so much, bro.
I feel like we're pretty nonchalant, but I feel like Mel reacts to everybody else's stuff way more than her own. Like someone will clutch and they'll be completely silent and Mel will just be screaming into her mic like super hype. So I guess Mel.
Easily, Guimon. Easily him. If you've seen Recoil's tour post of his clutch, the guy yelling his brains out. Our star smokes player, Guimon. I swear it's him. Best reactions of all time.
I don't know. Honestly, my teammates are pretty ice cold. Like, it had to be Jakey, but it's not because he's over the top. It's because everybody else is just like, no motion in the clutch. So I would say Jakey.
We need to go our ways. Don't you see the mess you made? Yeah, I'ma hit the road, babe. Yeah, I'ma hit the road, babe. I think we need to go our ways. Don't you see